Fractethyst, which is the new Stasis shotgun introduced this season, does not make me sad. Honestly, I think my only real problem with this gun is the fact that I want it to be a slug, and in my mind, it is a slug because it feels like a slug, but in reality, it's not. I'd be lying if I neglected to say just how many issues that's caused me, especially with such a high range stat. It's just weird, specifically because of that. There are a plethora of other guns that are similar to it, so Fractethyst is just another gun that I can add to the whole "it's cool, but it would have been cooler if it were a slug" list that I've got going here. Prophet of Doom, Retold Tale, Compass Rose, Dustrock Blues. You know, would have been cooler if they were all slugs. That's not to say that those shotguns were even remotely close to being bad, because they weren't. They were all fantastic, and so is Fractethyst. I just feel like a cone pellet burst fired from a precision frame is slightly self-defeating to a degree. The curated roll from the season pass drops with a rifled barrel, accurized rounds, ensemble, and opening shot. As for stats, it's a precision frame pellet burst, no slugs here. It clocks at a 70 in impact, 84 in range, 51 in stability, 33 in handling, and a 55 in reload speed, assuming yours didn't drop with dual loader. I'm not even gonna waste my time recommending a barrel attachment. I'm not trying to get eaten alive by the whole ass internet. I will, however, recommend Assault Mag, because that is still the king of shotgun DPS in terms of mag attachments. Much like just about any other shotgun, that's gonna increase the RPM by 5, and if you managed to get the curated roll but had Assault Mag instead of accurized rounds, you'd still have a 75 in range. And that's pretty goddamn good in the grand scheme of things. It's got a base mag of 5, though that can be increased to a max of 7 if you've got appended mag, tac mag, or an extended mag with a backup mag in the mod slot. Personally, I'd rather have Assault Mag with an adept mag in the mod slot, but that's just me. Unfortunately, that's just not possible because there is no adept iteration of this gun as of yet, but if there were, adept mag would be the only thing that could theoretically make the mag size go over 7. Adept mag and extended mag. Just keep in mind that the adept mag would drop handling by 13 points, meaning that its new minimum stat would become an abysmal 20, and trying to use the gun would feel an awful lot like trying to ready and aim a fridge. Overall though, this is a pretty snazzy gun. At its core, this gun feels wonderful, but the lack of handling is something that can be noticed on less than optimal rolls, especially with a rifled barrel, which drops handling down to a 33. That right there is a strike enough, but not quite enough to ruin the gun as a whole. This is because where it drops the ball in handling, it carries a little extra weight in its range stat, and that is a great thing for a shotgun to have. 1 or 2 extra meters between you and your target of choice might not seem like a huge change, but in crucible environments, it can make all the difference in the world, especially when considering how close you have to be to kill with a single shot. That extra 2 meters could end up being the single saving grace that keeps you at 1 health after taking a shell or a slug to the chest. And more importantly, that gives you an extremely crucial half a second or so to fight back. Stability isn't really a crucial stat on a shotgun, not unless you're dealing with a rapid-fire frame or something with an abysmal recoil direction. Fractethyst specifically has a 75 in recoil, so if that's still somehow enough to just get under your skin, a counterbalanced stock is going to push that number to a 90, which is far more than decent. As a result, the 51 in stability isn't really felt as hard, definitely not on a mouse and keyboard, that's for certain. Console players or players using controllers may have to wrangle with their sticks just a little bit to keep the gun aiming center mass with repeated shots, but it's not really bad enough to stand out as a detrimental stat of any kind. Overall, just kind of pace your shots and you shouldn't really have any real issues with it, regardless of input methods. The only real problem that I have with Fractethyst are iterations and rolls that drop with an extended mag and don't come with a reload masterwork. The reload time is where Fractethyst really starts to struggle more than anything else. Perks like dual loader and slide shot, they can offset this just a little bit, but ultimately, you're going to want either a shotgun loader or a reload masterwork if load speed is any sort of issue for you, like it is for me. All that aside though, this is an incredibly solid shotgun. It's not the Chaperone, and it's definitely not Dustrock Blues, but for the first Stasis shotgun in the game, this is well-rounded and ample, comparatively. I'd even go far enough as to recommend it for either PvE or Crucible exploits, given it drops with the right perks that complement the activity you're playing in. Speaking of perks, that's what we're going to talk about right now. There are plenty of good ones, but I'm only really going to go over the ones that I myself would actually use and not immediately throw in the trash. Ensemble is unique. It provides a generous boost to handling and reload time when allies are within 15 meters of the player. That is a good perk to counteract the handling and reload stat, which are both less than optimal. If you're a hunter, there's always knock 'em down, which is my go-to, but for anybody playing a different Guardian class, this is a decent support perk that just kind of passively does its job. Honestly, it's nice, and you know what? I like it. It's not necessarily a perk I'm gonna farm for, but it's not worthy of an immediate dismantle either. I'm not even gonna talk about Quick Draw though, not after the nerf. As incredible as it was, it's not a perk that I use or even look for to begin with because I'm not a living, breathing tumor that goes full on sweatbag in the Crucible. So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and throw that in the garbage. Useful for PvP, not something I would waste my time with. Dual Loader, on the other hand, is actually kinda nice. It'll cut reload speed in half in exchange for loading 2 shells at once, which sounds like a double negative, but trust me, it's actually not so bad. Mostly because you can afford the drop in reload speed at that point. In combination with the shotgun loader or a reload masterwork, assuming you've got the resources for that, the drop in reload speed becomes far less noticeable, and it's been more than helpful for me in the rare occasions that I find myself in the Crucible. Energy ammo is already low on spawn in PvP, so when you score a kill, not having to load every single shell can cut about a half a second off the animation. And that can be extremely beneficial if you get caught off guard by another player. It's not necessarily a perk I'd recommend taking into PvP, especially not when there are others that can provide equal or greater benefit with far less of a drawback, but it is a fun perk and I think that it gives the gun some flavor. And then we've got Slide Shot. Slide Shot is great on slugs, specifically for the range boost, but it's also a good counter for less than optimal reload speeds, which Fractethyst does suffer from, as previously discussed. Unless you get light mag or tac mag, your reload speed isn't going over 50, which isn't terrible, but it's not exactly the winning number either. Slide Shot, however, can counteract that. Sliding increases stability and range alongside of partially reloading the magazine as well. 100% worth saving over scrapping. And then we've got Harmony, which is incredible, especially when it's being used with something like Slide Shot. Kills with different weapons improve this weapon's damage and a variety of other stats as well. Strong for keeping kill chains going, especially if you're constantly shifting through your weapons like I am. 10 of 10, fantastic perk, definitely worth saving over scrapping. Adrenaline Junkie is also really great, especially when you're using grenade builds or firepower. Grenade kills increase the weapon's damage for a moderate duration. That duration being 10 seconds, and it stacks on itself 3 times, offering a maximum of 33% more damage per shell in this scenario specifically. It also refreshes on further grenade kills, and the perk is going to activate even if the weapon is stowed. It is fantastic, and it's definitely worth a good old-fashioned save. And then we've got Adagio.
Adagio.
Which is Italian, and also roughly translates to the word slow or slowly, which I thought was creative as fuck. And I feel like I'm one of a very small group of people who can actually say it right because I studied linguistics in college. Either way, this is a fascinating perk because it raises impact and drops RPM after a successful kill. I'll talk more about how the perk works in just a few minutes here. As of right now, I can't say for certain as to whether or not Assault Mag would slightly increase the overall RPM while the effect is active, but you can bet your ass I'm gonna try it out and hope for the best. In theory, Adagio and Slide Shot would make for an incredible combination, as a single kill would increase damage and the other would reload, increase stability, and range. I don't know about you, but that sounds like a meaty-ass perk, one that I want in my hands right at this very instant. And after that, we've got Thresh and Trench Barrel. Both are great perks that need no explanation. Both are solid choices that should always be considered before scrapping. They can easily make what would have been a bad gun into a good gun. There's also Full Auto Trigger System, which I fucking hate, and Lead from Gold, which is great, but honestly not really something I care about. And Opening Shot. I just don't care. That's not to say Opening Shot is bad, it's more of a PvP thing than anything else, and Crucible gives me ulcers, so yeah. Now, before I close this out, I'd really like to take a moment and emphasize on Assault Mag with Slide Shot and Adagio. Like I said earlier, I cannot stress enough just how strong of a combination this could be. I use the word could because I have farmed, and I haven't gotten a single gun to drop with any of those because I think God hates me. I don't know. Until I get my hands on one or I find the answer deep within the cesspool that is Reddit, I'm gonna work under the assumption that Adagio and Assault Mag cannot work together, and that Bungo added these perks to the same same pool just to blue ball me. But if they did work together, if is the key word, that would be incredible for damage. Let me explain. On shotguns specifically, Adagio provides a 20% damage increase after a successful kill. The key word here is percentage. It's not a general reduction in RPM class like originally thought, but rather a percentage decrease. A 20% reduction in RPM on shotguns specifically. The theory here is that Assault Mag could potentially offset that ever so slightly. Instead of dropping to, 50 rounds per minute, it could potentially only drop to 55 like any normal aggressive frame shotgun. That damage could also stack with other existing buffs and modifiers such as empowerment, mod percentage increases like high energy fire, or even weaken debuffs on a global scale. Essentially, this could allow for an on-off switch, if you will, allowing the player to cycle through RPM changes at will when the scenario requires it. If you're mowing through mob crowds, then mow through them with a 55 RPM aggressive frame damage with precision frame range. If there's a boss target on the field, score a kill and maximize damage on the boss for 6 seconds, rinse and repeat. This could be an incredible shotgun if it works the way that I want it to. By now, I'm sure you've already got a mental image going. Add slide shot into this theoretical equation, and now your reload speed is effectively doubled, because you only have to reload half the time. It sounds, keyword there is sounds, like it would be cracked. At the end of the day, just go farm this gun from some focused engrams. I really think you're going to have a decent time with it. We're going to be taking a look at more of these newer weapons over the next week. Specifically, my analysis and breakdown of Vulpecula, because holy god do I love that hand cannon. Either way, you guys know the drill. Me, in my cell, goodbye.